My next guest is a powerhouse of a lady.
Bom dia.
She's been active in the political arena for many years, has an illustrious career spanning from the Netherlands over to the island, St. Martin's, where she was the Minister of Education, Culture, Youth and Sports, as well as the Minister of Plenipotentiary. And she is now currently part of a member of the Tweede Kamer in the Netherlands, which is the House of Representatives of the Dutch Parliament.
First day that I started as sector director, I really felt very comfortable, very much at ease in working within the public sector. But before I started, I was like, will the position as a civil servant be something for me? It fits with me.
Yeah.
However, from day one, I felt at ease and comfortable and encouraged.
Yeah.
Because you have to contribute, whether you're a political representative or whether you're a civil servant, to the well-being of a community.
Mevrouw Wuite, u gaat wel heel veel interrumperen.
Ik zou bijna zeggen om de voorzitter dwars te zitten, maar...
Ik ken u langer dan vandaag.
Dat zou disrespect zijn.
People, good day, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you're connecting from in this wonderful world. Welcome to the Sunside Kingdom Show, the place where we highlight individuals with roots and or associations to the sunny side of the Dutch kingdom. These accomplished persons are true role models and examples of what can be achieved when we combine hard work, perseverance, and mighty focus. I'm your host, John Sandyford, aka Jam Sandyford. Let's get into today's episode. People, welcome to the Sunside Kingdom Show. We came especially today to The Hague to meet you here. And I would say it's sort of like a multi-layered purpose, right? The Hague is where the political arena lies. So this is also the place that you execute your job on a daily basis, right? Yeah. But The Hague is also, I would say, probably the city that is most connected to the islands, or at least St. Martin to some degree, because a large part of the diaspora actually resides here in The Hague. Yeah. And we're currently sitting on the edge of The Hague, Scheveningen.
We can almost touch the sea.
We can almost touch the sea, and that sea is connected to that vast ocean, which lands on the shores of St. Martin. So we can almost feel it.
Yeah, from the North Sea to the Atlantic Ocean to the Caribbean Sea. So Once we touch that water, we feel that we are connected. And that's the theme of your podcast, where it comes to the kingdom relations.
Yes. And
the Caribbean roots that we carry, and the sense of belonging that we feel with our Caribbean diaspora here in the Netherlands, as well as our families and friends overseas.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Happy to be here.
Thank you. Welcome. So, Jorien, let's start to peel back the onion.
Don't make me cry, though.
And we go back a few years to early childhood here in The Hague. What was that experience like?
How when I was born?
Yeah.
The really the get-go, the early years. Yeah.
The early years.
Yeah.
The early years. Growing up. Well, we'll probably have to first touch on that. Could you tell the people where mom is from, where dad is from? Yeah.
Maybe start with that. Yeah. My mom, of course, is from St. Martin. And she met my dad right here in The Hague, where she came to study for her tertiary education, like the majority of us still do. And so she came at a young age of 16, 17 to come to the kweekschool, to become a teacher. And that's where she met my dad. They fell in love, like many of us do here in the Netherlands once they study. And they raised 2 children. I have 1 brother, 1 sibling. And, in those years, it was also pretty challenging for her to return, small scale, sometimes politicized in terms of the ability to be able to get a job.
Yeah.
So they stayed in the Netherlands. And so I was born in the Netherlands, in The Hague, in the south of The Hague, then moved to another part of in the north, and then to a small village next to The Hague is where I finished my primary school and started my secondary school, a lyceum, before I decided to do my tertiary education in Rotterdam.
Yeah.
So
And where did you study?
Erasmus University,
Yeah.
healthcare management, and during my study, so in my final year, I really, sensed that I wanted to adventure and get to know my bicultural background and my family better. Of course, I visited St. Martin from since I was 2.
Yeah.
But I thought it was a great opportunity to do my thesis and my research on St. Martin.
Because up until that moment, you visited in vacations, etc. But never sort of lived and worked there.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So the first time that I really had an extended stay for like almost a year,
Yeah.
8-9 months, was indeed I was already in my early 20s. It really grew on me, and tried to explore at the end of my studies, but I was able to return. But as a junior, those type of persistent problems then are still existing now in terms of, unexperienced, whether you're seen as an asset or an opportunity for on the labor market. That was not the case. So I was unable to work at the hospital. It was very small, tiny. My background, I couldn't take on a managerial job then. So I started as a management consultant, working for the healthcare industry, so to speak, in the Netherlands. So that's how I built my first 5-6 years, until my mom sent this fax with a vacancy, a fax through the fax machine.
So we also have younger folks in our audience. we might have to put that right here. Show them a little.
Show them,
fax. What is that fax machine?
Fax machine.
They'll probably say the printer icon.
Donkey years ago, as they say.
So
you're
your
talking about
mom
the 90s.
sent you a fax. What was this fax? A clipping of a newspaper article?
A clipping of a newspaper article. It was, a vacancy for the position of
But was
sector
she living
director.
in St. Martin?
No, she was vacationing.
She was vacationing.
Yeah, she was spending time with her siblings, her sisters, and she traveled, on a regular basis, especially when we grew older without us. So she said, like, maybe this is an opportunity for you. I was already married, had my first child, so I immediately grabbed the opportunity and applied.
But she wouldn't send you something like that if it wasn't something that was sort of top of mind or in the realm of wishes. What was it? Because you mentioned that during your
thesis, my research?
During your thesis and your research, there was an interest for you to continue living on the island and working, but the opportunities didn't really match
so she knew
the expectations.
Yeah.
And then even years later, there was still something inside that wanted to reconnect in that way.
Yeah, especially from my end. And she knew. So she knew that I had an interest to see if I was able to return. And so when she accidentally saw the vacancy, she sent it. But also, in the spur of the moment. So it was also spontaneous acts. Yeah. Sometimes it's also about serendipity.
Serendipity, indeed.
So I applied. At that time, it was, of course, an island territory on St. Martin, and I landed a job, moved with my entire family. Never had a dull moment since. Always, try to grab opportunities to make a difference. Even though I sensed, like, do I want to be a civil servant? That felt kind of like awkward for me at that time. But I never had a dull moment, because I always felt as if, in the public sector, you make and you should make meaningful decisions and changes or policies or laws in the interest of people and their livelihoods.
Yeah.
And that's also with public health related matters. So I always had a wonderful time, then grew with receiving more responsibilities, social security related issues, labor related issues, and then came the 10-10-10 phase of the dismantling of the Netherlands Antilles, where you then become like a quartermaster to take on the extra responsibilities to become a country within the Kingdom of the Netherlands. So
Yeah.
those were additional responsibilities.
So let's just imagine that some of our audience members aren't completely familiar with 10-10-10. So what exactly happened in that period?
Well, in the 90s, of course, early in the 2000s, of course, Sint Maarten expressed their interest to follow, actually, Aruba with
Yeah.
their status aparte from 1986 it was. So
Yeah.
they also expressed that the Netherlands Antilles construct was not in their favor.
Yeah.
And through a referendum, there were an X amount of options what the new constitutional status should be, and then the preferred option was status apart, so therefore becoming a country within the Kingdom of the Netherlands. That has, been long fought, discussed, debated, consulted with the Netherlands, with the other islands, where Curaçao then also had a similar referendum, so did the other remaining 3 islands, of course,
Yeah.
because there were 5 left
Yeah.
after Aruba had parted, of course. So that resulted in therefore in the 10th of October 2010, as you can recall,
Yeah.
with a completely new arena where the smaller islands, Bonaire, Saba, and Statia, became part of the Netherlands, integrated into the Netherlands with their constitution and their framework. Well, we can talk a lot about that.
Bijzondere gemeente.
That's the Dutch word.
What do we call it in English?
Openbaar lichaam, bijzondere gemeente,
Yeah.
a special municipality.
A special municipality. Okay.
Yeah. And I experienced a lot during my term as a member of parliament, indeed, of how that integration took place.
Yeah.
But that was the explanation of the 10-10-10 momentum, and
And for Sint Maarten, and this is just, let's say, my personal perspective. It was probably more difficult transition for Curaçao
Of
because
course.
a lot of those organizations
Yeah.
were already established in Curaçao that then supported the Netherlands Antilles. But then Sint Maarten had to overnight stomp out of the ground so many different organizations that are needed in order to run your own country.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So that
Capacity
in itself
issues.
was a huge
Yeah.
challenge.
And from the get-go, actually, the overall sentiment was that Sint Maarten, as not a full island, but actually half of an island, not having the so-called friend side, part of it, would be kind of like a mission impossible to take on so many additional responsibilities.
Yeah.
And which indeed is still a challenge. When you look at reform-related issues, for instance, now what we're discussing in the relations within the Kingdom of the Netherlands in terms of the required reforms, the need to secure sustainable development, the speed in which you're able to do so, the capacity and knowledge and people that you need to do that in a careful, effective, and manner fitting a small island development state. That is still a challenge, as you know.
Yeah.
So, but here we are. It still it did materialize, and
Yes.
Sint Maarten
And
has had a rough start with when you look at certain crises that, for instance, happened in the first, let's say, 2 decades.
Yeah.
With a Hurricane Irma, with the Corona pandemic. So where we worldwide are talking about triple crisis, Sint Maarten had their share.
Yeah.
So which is definitely extraordinary.
And throughout, well, definitely I know in that first crisis, but then I might be jumping the gun. So let's go back to about that 10-10-10 moment.
Yeah.
So in that moment, you also played a key role in helping to grow some of those particular departments, right?
Yeah.
So give us a bit more of that perspective.
Well, just like you mentioned, if you have to secure a new ministry task and responsibility, you have to review and analyze whether the existing capacity is sufficient and what type of new people you need to fill new vacancies, fill the vacancies critical to do the job and take on the responsibilities necessary for people in the area of public health or social security to feel that they and that they see that they are secured through the responsibilities of government. So that means that you try to create opportunities for learning on island, that you indeed ensure that recruitment is done to try and find St. Martiners that are willing to come back home and fill those critical vacancies, that you develop a new team, and that you give opportunities for people that had internal positions, that they're able to grow with the organization, and gain and take those new positions as department head, for instance. So we managed to do it on a team basis, and that has always been a bit of my my ethics and my principles to do it together, because one and one creates more than two. It's the synergy that is then applied, and it helps with the output. So in that transition, even though I was a quartermaster, I can still, and sometimes friends, or still send the pictures like, look us there at the 10th of October when we were like, we made it, we made it, we did it. And that feel of like we were one of the first ministries that established themselves and were able to say we are ready. And you can say a lot about that. So it's those are some of the examples that you have to build. Look at the Inspectorate of Public Health. Look at social security systems. If we take on the health insurance system, from the Netherlands and Tilly's, are we able to do so in an appropriate manner? Is the SZW as a new entity taking over the SVB ready, with the capacity to do so, and etc. It was really challenging. But maybe that is also a bit of a story of my life, that where it comes to certain pressure and leaps forwards that are necessary, that is something that I enjoy. And, after, I think in 2013, 14, I was like, I see that I take a back seat. There's a new team ready to take on. You have to always encourage mobility. It's time to leave, to do something else, which is not easy on a small island, where you live, you play, you work, you do everything. But so how can you enforce mobility so that your performance always stays on top of the game? So I moved to the Ministry of Education, Culture, Youth and Sports. It was wonderful, because I never thought, after having a conversation with a group of friends about, what is your key priority if you would become the president of country St. Martin, what would be your key priority? And for me, it was education. And then 6 months later, I was able to take part of that ministry and take on some of the challenges that were necessary for that ministry then.
So if I spin back the time a little bit to the moment when you first moved to St. Martin, you didn't feel like the public sector was the place for you as yet, but growing in your role as Secretary General, and within the what's the word I'm looking for here? Within the healthcare space, at some point you have to have a lot of links and connections then with the political arena, especially in that whole transition in 10-10-10.
For sure.
So those elements of the public sector then actually slowly started to sip into your day job, like to some degree?
Well, if you're a sector director, you're the primary advisor to the political representative, being a commissioner or a minister. But I should also emphasize that from the first day that I started as sector director, I really felt very comfortable, very much at ease in working within the public sector. But before I started, I was like, will the position as a civil servant be something for me? It fits with me. However, from day one, I felt at ease and comfortable and encouraged. Because you have to contribute, whether you're a political representative or whether you're a civil servant, to the well-being of a community, of individuals, their livelihoods, in this case, their public health concerns.
So let's say, your personal purpose was in line
Yeah.
in both of these arenas.
Yeah. Otherwise, I wouldn't have survived. As I said, I've never had a dull moment. I really, really enjoyed my work, and I really hope with this podcast, that the next generation will be encouraged. I'm speaking to so many young people that are doubtful whether they want to go back or yes or no, or the obstacles that they see or the limitations that they believe they will have, which I understand, they're real. But at the same time, if you're able to find your niche as islanders, there's also much that we can do. So I never had a dull moment. And indeed, as Secretary General, you're closer to the political arena, because at that time, after the 10-10-10 date, we also had indeed, of course, a closer democratic structure with the parliament and ministers, and therefore government versus parliament, and in terms of the trias politica, being much closer. So how will that play out in a relatively new democracy? Therefore, how will that play out to citizens is still a process that I think that the Caribbean islands and countries are in. But it was great to be there for then the primary advisor of ministers. So close to the political arena, but not being the political representatives, but very close in terms of your advisory capacity. You have to think with them. And I had my difficult moments, I can tell you that, of course, where sometimes commissioners or ministers would say, like, what the hell are you busy with? And where you sometimes have to count until 10 before you respond.
Woesa.
Yeah. So I've learned so many things, and and then came Irma in 2017. So that was very intense.
So when Irma hit, you were then currently the minister of.
No, I was Secretary General, working for the Ministry of Education, Culture, Youth and Sports. So therefore, within the 24 hours, trying to get ready to get where the emergency center is in order to check to see where you can assist and how you should assist, and whether the schools have been that impacted, and try to make an analysis and an inventory in order to normalize society, get parents back, to contribute to St. Martin's recovery. You need to have safe spaces in your schools. And so you have to make an assessment what that situation is, how to get people together, how you establish, and here we are then here in The Hague, establish contact with Ministry of Education here in The Hague, how they will assist. And that early recovery then started. And then in the midst of it, when political dynamics kind of like hit a very sensitive moment, indeed, I got the opportunity to be Minister of Education, Culture, Youth and Sport for a short period of time. And then indeed was asked to become Minister Plenipotentiary in the Netherlands because of the intensity of St. Martin's recovery. The Netherlands had then decided to make 550 million euros available through the World Bank. That arrangement, or 470 to the World Bank, and 80 million early recovery or something, So that's when it all started, and where you have a more diplomatic type of position here in The Hague.
Yeah. And it was also kind of around that period that we got to meet each other.
Yeah, and then it was a diplomatic role. I tried to bring the story of St. Martin in a positive manner, and the story of Irma and its people, and that story of that painting of Ruby Butte. St. Martin will smile again, and that went through the various ministries to tell St. Martin's story, and gain support, have a understanding that half a billion was donated by the Netherlands, which was an extensive amount of money. So. Build bridges, build understanding was at that time very, very critical. And so that was until 2019. And then we met again during Corona. Where I had to do a campaign to participate in the second chamber elections, and I did so straight out of St. Martin, which
Straight
was
out
very,
of St. Martin.
very extraordinary. And you also assisted with the online campaigns that we had to do, the digital meetings that we had, with an overwhelming outcome of close to 16,000 votes.
Yeah, that.
Yeah, that was really, I was like flabbergasted. Yeah, I can still see myself sitting in the living room there with my mom. And we heard, we saw some of the outcomes and,
Yeah, that was an amazing moment.
Yeah.
And so in my head, for me, that moment is still the first St. Martin based roots person in the second chamber. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That's
yeah,
correct.
yeah,
Right?
especially definitely running the campaign out of the Caribbean, from the Caribbean, not a person of Caribbean descent residing and living in the Netherlands. So that was kind of extraordinary. I can still recall Rob Jette telling me like, no, don't move to the Netherlands. Just stay put.
Yeah.
You're there. It's allowed. People were like, are you able to do this out of St. Martin? Don't you have to, be registered here in the Netherlands? No, it was not necessary. So I learned a lot, and that's how we did it, which was extraordinary. And D66 has been, the one that really wanted to support and bring a new type of, connection between the islands. Somebody understanding and also with certain type of skills and
Yeah.
to be able to survive in Parliament also, because I can tell you that after the 31st of March 2021
Yeah.
it was like a roller coaster, a jungle. I felt like a toddler. I had to learn so many new things and on your own.
So dive into some of those challenges.
Yeah, first of all, I like to be a person that is successful.
Yeah.
A successful termed and explained in terms of being meaningful.
Yeah.
Having purpose and being able to make a change for people.
Yeah.
But having been away for many years in order to understand the political dynamics, the political factions, and what their ideology is like, the manner in which debates are done. And then I'm like, whoa, okay. I come from a Caribbean island. We if we want to use many words, we will, and we will speak for 30 minutes if we are allowed to. And in the majority of cases, we were allowed.
Yeah.
But there, it's like, okay, you have 3 minutes, you have 4 minutes, make your point.
Oh.
Your interruptions have to be to the point in 1 minute, 2 minutes. I was like, yo,
Whoa.
how to be expressive,
Yeah.
successful, persuasive, get my point across. If you want, you have two responsibilities as member of parliament. That is to control government in what they agreed that they would do in their term,
Yeah.
the coalition agreement. And 2, you have a legislative responsibility. So how to manage those 2 responsibilities effectively in the interest of people with my particular portfolios.
And those were your portfolio?
Yeah, I started, of course, with Kingdom Relations.
Yeah.
The
natural fit.
That was, yeah. And the second one, that's why I had a dream portfolio, I must say. I had a dream portfolio. But in the get-go, I did 3 things, 3 political portfolios. Kingdom Relations, culture, and the creative industries, therefore, and media. And media was the most complicated portfolio because the media landscape had changed tremendously, and where you always have to look at media also in terms of their informative and educational responsibility, as they are funded by the government, so funded by the public sector, and therefore have an educational duty and also a duty where it comes to safety and the democracy of a society, informed citizens.
So for those, and I'm also maybe a little bit ignorant to this fact. So that relates then to like Nederland 1, Nederland 2, NPO.
The broadcasts,
okay. So all of the broadcasts,
the Dutch
that are
broadcast system, yes.
By,
and then with the new digital economy and the streaming and the new tech players around influencing citizens and how that relates to the original idea of an analog TV type of system that we have, where I used to sit between with my parents watching channel 1, 2, or 3.
Yeah.
So where it is publicly funded with the objective to inform citizens, shape society, enhance democracy, but where you then have to reconsider whether as government or as parliament control that reality with so many new players around in the media sector.
Because a lot of the players aren't remotely Dutch.
No, exactly. So
With
it's
all
a
of the
lot of
major
mergers,
social media platforms,
international
all
players.
of the streaming. It's a lot of the international players. And how would things like YouTube, for instance, where the platform that we're streaming this on, how does that connect in that in that space?
Should be considered. Should be considered in terms of once you have to evaluate the effectiveness of the policies and the laws that are there, and whether it does to society what you intend to do. You have to consider those new media channels that are there and are reaching, especially new generations. So, and that is a reason to reanalyze and reconsider how you want to use the 1 billion that was available for written media, the newspapers, or TV. And that's the process ongoing. But I did it for a couple of months, and then as the second biggest political party in Parliament, you have to take on a responsibility also to be a chairperson of permanent committees. So I, was asked and was allowed to become the chair of the permanent committee of development, cooperation, and foreign trade.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's
a completely different.
Beast, yeah. And especially, I took it on when the Ukraine war started, and the whole new geopolitical dynamics and the new economic warfares influencing trade started. So you don't have to take the political position. Yeah, you have the chair role, but overall, I had therefore then 2 political responsibilities with political portfolios, and I chaired the debates of that permanent committees, roundtable consultations, technical briefings, meetings in many ways. Or, for instance, last year we traveled to Rwanda with a big delegation, and then you are the delegation leader. Yeah. Where you explore the development aid cooperation, but you also explore opportunities of trade. Yeah. For instance. I had a dream portfolio, I must say, and it was, as I said, a roller coaster, wonderful learning experience, where you hope to have contributed, for instance, in culture and the creative industries. They were heavily affected during the Corona pandemic, but the 6 islands as well. Yeah. So the first year was really focused on the impact of the pandemic and how you're able to ensure that the islands survive, or that the creative industry and the makers, those that are creative entrepreneurs on their own, are able to, keep afloat and survive. It was the first year, very, very dominant.
You know what's interesting? Well, you mentioned it already, but as we go through your story, then it's you tend to rise in these crisis moments.
Yeah,
like
so
the crisis moment in 10-10-10, where everything was up in the air and someone needed to, many persons needed to play a role in sort of balancing the chaos, and you played a significant role there, as well as in the crisis of Hurricane Irma and the rebuilding process, and the role that you played there in the immediate recovery phase. And then as you enter political Dutch arena for the first time, I think it was the first time in decades that we had such a crisis moment in the Netherlands. Yeah. I mean, it was worldwide, but then Netherlands specific I don't think they had any of those type of crises that affected the complete country maybe since the war.
Ja, klopt. So that says something about maybe what, that I like these type of challenges, or that I have the skill to create some sense of hyper focus.
Hyper focus in chaos.
Yeah. Or in need.
Yeah.
For instance, last night, I think until, what was it, 11, 12 o'clock, you followed the debate in the second chamber with regards to the social domain, social security related issues, employment, and the koopkrachtmaatregelen, as they say in Dutch. You collaborate with spokespersons and members of parliament of other parties, as well as your own party members, to see if we can, do justice to, as we say, the Caribbean 3 municipalities, Bonaire and Seba and Statia, that have fought and expressed really the need to really fight poverty.
Yeah.
And therefore increase the minimum wage, increase welfare, increase pension, support in many ways, especially since last year where rising inflation, rising food prices has, posed so many challenges to families, single parent families, etc. So then
and those challenges are particularly they grow exponentially in the islands since especially the Dutch islands. They're all dependent on import for their food supply.
Yeah.
And when you have transportation that triples in prices during the Corona crisis, or even quadruples in some cases,
$280 between Seba and Statia, or between Seba and St. Martin.
Yeah,
those type of prices.
It's crazy.
Yeah, so it has a huge impact on their economic development, on their economic growth, or let's say development. I think that's a better term in terms of growth. And therefore the position of families and their ability to survive, raise families, raise their children, and therefore create the best head start of the next generation in terms of their sense of stability, their sense of safety, that's their sense of, and their ability to do their schooling in a safe and effective manner. So I was happy therefore with the outcome yesterday. What
was the outcome?
Now, we gained a majority in Parliament to support. Through my motion, I've asked the government to establish a special committee to do all the analysis of what a social minimum is supposed to be. They've presented their report last week. I know that you're going to air this later on, so hopefully, some of the things that we're now exploring in the phase of implementing will be clearer then by that time. But the majority, decided to support an initiative that I started together with another political party and a spokesperson to raise the minimum wage with not a little step, a little bit, but with a huge leap forward.
Oh,
yeah! So
wonderful.
Yeah. So I really hope that.
I'm looking forward to the moment that this goes live, that we can potentially already place a link in the bottom that you can see that they've made some great steps there.
Yeah.
But I also saw that there was an announcement on LinkedIn, I believe it was.
From me.
From you.
Oh, that I will not continue.
Yes.
Yeah, I decided not
before we touch on that part, we would have to obviously let our viewers know, those that are not in the Dutch Kingdom, that the current coalition has, what would be the term?
Government fell.
So therefore, there's going to be new elections coming up.
On the 22nd of November.
22nd, okay.
Yeah.
And for those new elections, you've decided not to run again.
Correct.
Would you want to express a bit about that decision?
Yeah, it was I actually, before government fell and before therefore the new elections were called, I had decided that I would limit to one term.
Okay.
That I would complete my 4 years term.
Yeah.
That I'm not person with the ambition to be a long-term Dutch politician
Yeah.
in The Hague,
Yeah.
and therefore not to decide to go for another 4 years,
Yeah.
and therefore run into 8 years. That was one. Of course, I didn't expect the government to fall 2 weeks later after I kind of like came to that type of conclusion. I was like, okay.
Manifesting too fast.
Oof. I'm like, I'm not finished yet, That's complicated then, because so that's kind of like traumatic in terms of, okay, so what does this mean?
Yeah.
How will that interrupt, my priorities that I would like to complete?
Yeah.
I thought I had a year plus to go, and now I only have 5-6 months to go. What can I push? Well, that created that hyper focus in terms of this social minimum for Caribbean, the Dutch municipalities, the Dutch Caribbean municipalities. That's something that I really want to focus on. That's why I'm so happy with that. So you have to really internalize everything that's happening in the summer months, and then in the summer months I was on Sint Maarten, and you have to reflect on, okay, so am I ready to take that on again?
Yeah.
I had run on Sint Maarten political campaigns in 2016 and 2018 and in 2020, and now then again in 2020 of course, 2021 for the second chamber.
Yeah.
And are you willing and able to make that commitment once more for 4 years?
Yeah.
And my answer was I wouldn't be able to do so.
Okay.
And then you also look at the political landscape and the political arena and what type of politics I expect as the outcome of and what is currently developing.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to be honest. And then you should not be selfish, but you really have to think on the general interest and the next politician that's going to step up. And with that long-term commitment, I wouldn't want to be the one saying like, well, I would love to continue and then disrupt after a year by saying, well, I think I would like to maybe complete or stop my work prematurely while you're in the midst of maybe, a cultural, innovative or renewal agenda.
Yeah.
I would rather than have a new politicians aspiring to be long-term politician to be there from the get-go. You really need to be willing to make that commitment for 4 more years.
Yeah.
And if you cannot answer that, you should step out and make room for somebody else. And of course, I looked around and supported, some people, I encouraged some people where I think that should be an inspiring next generation for my party D66. I'm
awesome.
that's a decision. And then, of course, people start to ask, like, so what's it going to be? Are you going to go back to Sint Maarten?
I was just about to ask, so what's next?
Yeah. Then, honestly, when that question was asked in August, September, I was like, don't ask me. Don't ask. I can't. Because, first of all, it was too premature.
Yeah.
And I also felt like I am a member of parliament until the 5th of December.
Yeah.
And the work does not stop.
5th?
Of December, yeah. Until the 2 weeks after the elections.
2 weeks after the elections, but that's also the day before your birthday.
Correct. Oh, so you know. So my first day off, what would you say, freedom?
Freedom is wow.
Yeah.
Those are some stars aligning.
Yeah. Yeah. So I press on. I felt as if that question in terms of what's your next move, what will you do? Will you move back? What are your next aspirations? I felt like that's not unethical to think about, because I'm a representative of the people, so to speak, and the people's interests go before my personal interest.
Yeah.
In that sense, of a career change. But I know that I will start to focus on that. In the last weeks of October, early November, where certain things calm down, I will have my last Kingdom Relations debate about the budget 2024 next week.
Okay.
I will do one very, very short debate about cultural heritage in the upcoming week, and I have some ideas there. So, that is first the priority, to see if I can be successful and make a difference in people's lives.
Yeah.
I think that people, especially those that voted for me, but everybody, also those on the other side of the ocean, where they rely sometimes on the decisions that we make here in The Hague. You have to see whether you can go the maximum. For instance, Curaçao, Aruba, Sint Maarten, the ENIA loan, the Corona loans, the sensitive socioeconomic position that they still endure due to Corona, due to Irma, due to global developments, rising energy prices, you name it.
Yeah.
Everything, comes together and creates this huge challenge for the Caribbean region in its entirety. I mean, I'm a great fan, for instance, of Mia Motley of Barbados, where she, really takes the stage to express the urgent needs of not only the entire Caribbean region, but also small islands and microstates. So I hope that I have an opportunity, even after this term as Member of Parliament, to always contribute in different ways. I mean, leadership comes in so many ways. Look at you. Look at you in, the leadership role that you have taken from the get-go when you were a young entrepreneur, and also with this podcast. That has always been my leadership, and social leadership or community leadership can be defined in so many different ways.
In so many different ways, indeed. So earlier you mentioned that once when you made the decision to exit this current position, that you also want to encourage those coming afterwards forward. If you were to look now at our Caribbean brothers and sisters or sons and daughters that may have similar aspirations and goals to one day be in the political arena here in the Netherlands, for instance, let's say two pieces of advice that you could give them. Because there's not that many that have done it before or are even currently there, right? How many persons with a Caribbean background are currently in Parliament?
Well, if you consider, for instance, the greater Caribbean, including Suriname, we share the Caribbean Sea. It is also Sylvana Simmons. It's also Don Seder. And it's also now, by the way, also Richardson being part of the VVD. She just came back as she replaced another member of Parliament recently. So they're kind of like four, and somebody of African descent. So, the diversity is enhancing.
Let's say diversity on the Afro-Caribbean, it's about 5.
Yep.
Out of the how many?
150.
150. Okay. So then percentage-wise, what are we talking about? About 3%? No, that's... Yeah, about 3%?
Yes, 3%.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We'll have to crunch some more numbers to see
to look
up to what
demographics.
Type of,
if it represents the demographics.
We should be at in order to represent the demographics of what we actually represent within the Dutch kingdom.
I think it's close.
It's close?
I think it's close. I think there are 200 plus Caribbean diaspora here in the Netherlands, 200 plus.
200,000 plus?
And
but then when we count all of the islands as well.
Which islands?
Well, the 6 islands when we
more than 200,000.
But that's in the Netherlands. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's why it's sometimes referred to as the 7th island in the Netherlands. So which was a leap forward in comparison to the years before, just like you mentioned. And I really hope that will be the outcome once more, the 22nd of November.
Yeah,
there are multiple parties with a diverse list of candidates, gender-wise, age-wise, diversity-wise, in ethnicity, race, cultural backgrounds. So, which is hopeful, and it's necessary. It's definitely not a luxury. I think it will further enhance the ability to have an inclusive democracy, that people feel represented.
Yeah.
and that they see that their representation makes a difference. Every time I travel back to St. Martin, they really mention like, "Yo, we see you. You even though you're maybe not even in the Dutch newspapers with the thing that you accomplish,
Yeah.
you are in our newspapers, and we do see what you do, and it is appreciated. So
Awesome.
that gives a good feel.
You are highly appreciated, madam.
Thank you. Looking forward to see you more.
And me as well. And so let's take one of those little nostalgic deep dives again. If you were to imagine that 18-year-old Jorien is sitting here, because I think early 20s Jorien went back to St. Martin for the first time, but 18-year-old Jorien. So she's freshly young adult, looking into this big wide world with dreams and aspirations. With your current experience and knowledge, what advice would you give 18-year-old Jorien?
To dare to dream and to understand that life is not a bed of roses and it goes up and down, and that you shouldn't take things too serious and just do sometimes without overthinking certain things, and trust once you believe in yourself that things will play out well or good. You cannot oversee or plan everything away of time. Certain things comes together. Sometimes it is related to your dreams. And once you understand your strengths and you believe in yourself, you know that life will progress, in a positive manner. And, when it comes to the Caribbean diaspora, maybe something that I felt less because I participated in the Dutch society from the get-go, from young.
Yeah.
My advice to a Caribbean 18-year-old that reaches here but feels that they're not part of society, then that first advice is still relevant. But it's also like that feeling of like, oh, I'm probably here for a short period of time and will leave.
Yeah.
You never know whether
true.
you will go back or will stay. So try and participate from day one. Understand that, for instance, where you have that first vote, not in your Caribbean home country, but here in the Netherlands, make sure you participate, because the things that are, for instance, decided here in The Hague with regards to education, with regard to housing, with regards to social welfare, social security, with regards to so many kingdom relations, affects you as well. So that has been challenging. What I've noticed is sometimes campaigning, like that there are so many of the Caribbean diaspora on the outskirts looking in or thinking it doesn't matter or that they can't make a difference anyway.
Yeah.
Which is harmful not only to yourself, but also to your family members, for instance, on the other side of the ocean. So my advice would be, where it comes to their personal career, as I mentioned, in terms of dare to dream and feel comfortable with yourself, and you're allowed to express yourself the way you can, and accomplish the things that you think are meaningful and purposeful for you. On the other hand, it's also where it comes to social life and community life and democratic life and the freedoms that we enjoy, to therefore participate in, for instance, elections, whether they're local in your municipality or with the elections coming up on the 22nd for the second chamber.
Because oftentimes I've also experienced it to some degree when I first moved back to the Netherlands, that I was only going to be here for a short period of time.
Exactly.
So it was probably the first 2 to 3 years that I wasn't
grasping it, maybe even understanding society.
Yeah.
Or understanding what the options or the political priorities were considered.
It definitely took a while.
Yeah.
And having, I also believe is very important that there's avenues that we can go to where we can have those type of conversations and get that part of the education that helps and allows us to understand how we sort of fit in.
Yeah, that definitely takes time. So but I mean it in that sense of encouragement. That I also met family members that hadn't voted for the 20 years that they've
Oh,
been
wow.
here.
Yeah.
So those type of examples are there as well. I really also look forward, but that's something that I may want to debate next week in terms of, I think we had a conversation before when I was Minister Plenipotentiary where he said, like, why wouldn't, Caribbean students that have to leave the island to further their studies here, why wouldn't they be allowed to vote on their islands?
Yeah. Yeah.
Where we go back to, level of innovation, critical voice, ability for the islands to develop accordingly. I mean, in many cases, the young vote is missed.
Yeah. Very
So
much.
I really hope that we will find some formula in which that is feasible. I understand that you have to register here in the municipality to get the duo and the study financing and all that type of stuff, but
Because essentially the other way around, it's possible for
you have to register.
well, persons that were Dutch citizens at
Correct.
some point
And live in Washington?
live in Washington, wherever, they can still vote
Correct.
in
Second chamber.
in the second chamber, because that is matters of their home country.
But you know why? You know what they say and what the distinctive difference is? It makes it a challenging discussion and exploration, is that those Dutch nationals are oftentimes not allowed to vote and exercise their voting right elsewhere based on their Dutch nationality, while those Caribbean Dutch students with a Dutch nationality are allowed to vote here and therefore exercise their rights. But it's about extracting a younger generation out of your country
Yeah.
and therefore not giving them the opportunity to influence the direction of their country to which they expect to return to. And what that will do with democracy and change is an interesting conversation.
This is again one of those like
Catch-22s.
catch-22s
Yeah.
and really challenging challenges
Yeah.
that we face as small island nations and with a colonial past, etc. That's okay.
Yeah.
Interesting conundrum.
Yeah. When I participate in this conference in Trinidad about innovation developments in the Caribbean and the Greater Caribbean,
Yeah.
and where they really express that indeed the Caribbean islands, due to the history and the colonial history, takes out a majority of their younger generation to study in the UK, in the States, in Canada, in the Netherlands, and that they don't return, is that it does also influence the ability of the Caribbean islands to innovate,
Yeah.
to change. And that when I heard an important speaker express that, I was like, that is therefore also critical to consider in moving forward. And we will never be able to
Because if those that leave feel a certain disconnect with where they are, but they also start to grow a disconnect with where they're from,
yes,
and that disconnect is not bridged in the right way, because they also can't express their voice in the future shaping
Yes.
of that country. It then probably puts many in a position of feeling helpless to some degree.
Yes.
That I've sort of grown a distance with where I'm from. I'm slowly maybe integrating here, and some maybe never do. So you do get a feeling of feeling voiceless
Yes.
over time.
yes, and that has been proven. The research has been done by the demographic institutions or the democratic institutions here to explore these type of subjects. It's proven that people of Caribbean descent often do not partake in these type of democratic elections, and which is a concern, because once you decide to postpone and not do it, or consider it to be something not necessary now but in the future, you run the risk of being on the outside for extended period of time,
Yeah.
or may not ever want to vote anymore. And those, I think, we are here in Europe in these democratic societies, which is, cherished. Look at what is happening in the world with, strong leaders, shutting down journalists that are not allowed to do their, their media, have their media outlets anymore, or they control the justice sector. And so, in that sense, I do think that freedoms, as we experience in this democratic societies that we live in, are supposed to be nurtured, supported, but never be taken for granted.
Yeah.
We can continue and go on and on.
We could go on and on and on, and we'll probably circle back around in due time and continue these conversations. Yeah. But I know you're also a very busy lady, and have to move on to the next appointment. So, Jorien, I would like to thank you very, very much for being here today. This is our final episode of season 1. And we wanted to have a climactic finish. Lucky number 7.
Lucky number 7.
I've also taken on the number 7 as one of my lucky numbers. Yeah. As well as, oh my God, this is crazy. As well as 13. Today is actually the 13th.
It is. Yeah. It is.
I had to take on 13 because Friday the 13th, because my birthday is on the 13th.
Okay.
And many times they would tell me it's unlucky, and I'm like, no, it's going to be a lucky number.
There you go.
I'm not going to let you determine what it's going to be lucky or unlucky for me. I'll make 13 a lucky number.
Yeah. So you take control of your life.
Exactly.
You have been one of those examples that I've seen over the last couple of years of always indeed, creating your own path. Of being entrepreneurial in nature, and always indeed contributing to the country that you're from, the Caribbean islands that you are from, and finding ways through a podcast or through your assistance, also after Irma, in how you are able, even from here in the Netherlands, being able to be helpful. So I know that you're traveling this weekend, so enjoy the islands.
Thank you.
Much success also with that event upcoming, that Smile event.
The Smile event. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing you soon and to talk some more.
Yeah, for sure. We're doing this one? Yeah. Island style.
There you go.
So, thank you guys at home for tuning in, whether it's on the mobile phone, the tablet, the laptop, the television. Please subscribe, like, and follow for more content. This was unfortunately the end of season 1, but at the same time, fortunately, the end of season 1. So I'll see you in the new year for season 2. Thank you. See you soon.